Hi everyone, welcome back. Good to see you again. You're looking well. Get yourself a drink and a seat up front. We're going to get started. Because yes, there's a show. It's all been happening and now you want to know. But before we can start, we must begin with hello. My name is Sean, your host and fellow. Now grab hold your beverage, your mind just as quick. We're building up for our best sip. So join me now for the greatest pleasure, where we unwind this world together. It's time now. It's time for the sip. Let's do it now. Let's do it quick. Go! Ah, yes, delicious. Well, in Sydney, Australia, a crowded commuter platform in Australia was temporarily evacuated after passengers reported spotting what they believed was a dangerous snake slithering near a seating area during peak morning traffic. Emergency responders were called after multiple witnesses described seeing a thin black moving object along the ground, curling beneath the benches and partially disappearing between commuters' feet. Given Australia's reputation for highly venomous snakes, officials treated the situation seriously. Station staff immediately halted access to the platform, redirected commuters, and contacted wildlife handlers. One passenger reportedly shouted, "It's under the bench!" And witnesses described the scenes of growing panic as people climbed onto seats, backing away from the suspected reptile. According to officials, the object appeared convincing because it moved slightly in the wind from oncoming trains, was partially hidden by shadows, and had a shape consistent with a small snake. Commuters reportedly began filming while attempting to identify the species from a safe distance. The situation escalated further after someone claimed the snake had lifted its head, prompting additional emergency response personnel to arrive. Wildlife officers eventually approached the object using specialized handling equipment. Then the mystery was solved. The snake was a black headphone cable. Yes, attached to a portable music player and partially vibrating from the passing trains. Witnesses say there was a moment of complete silence before the realization spread across the platform. One commuter reportedly laughed so hard he had to sit down. Officials later confirmed no snake had ever been present, nobody was injured, and the train delays were caused entirely by misidentification of electronic accessories. The owner of the headphones was eventually located after returning to search for them and discovering transit officers, wildlife specialists, and a partially evacuated station surrounding the cable. Well, I bet he had no trouble finding it, though after all that locomotion, his music may have a small hiss after all that. Meanwhile, in Iran, it looks like there could be a deal on the cards. President Trump announced that the US and Iran were very close to a deal. It's said to include the nuclear fuel itself, or the dust as it's been called, which has been sort of one of the main contentions of the negotiations so far. It's always been asked for, and Iran has never been forthcoming, and now it seems that they've changed their mind. They expect about 1,000 pounds of it, and apparently it's at 60% enrichment at the moment, which is apparently not that far away from being able to go to 90%, which is needed for weapons grade. That would be enough to create about 10 warheads, so roughly 60 pounds of highly enriched is enough for one warhead. And the terms apparently include a 60-day ceasefire, which there's been a ceasefire ongoing so far, opening up the straits, which everybody wants, especially Iran, because the ships are blockaded at the moment and their ports are blocked, and Iran won't be able to charge any tolls. So there's no indications yet as to when the deal will be signed or how long it will take to implement, but you'd expect it would be, sometime this week it would start, or at least be signed, and then the implementation maybe take a few more weeks after that. It would also be interesting to know if there's going to be any penalties. That Iran has been, even though there has been a ceasefire going on, they have been attacking ships in the UAE and Oman. There's also been drone attacks on their neighbours. Last week it was the power station in the UAE, nuclear power station in the UAE, I should say. And there's also was the plot to attack President Trump's daughter Ivanka. Yes, Ivanka Trump was there was somebody who was plotting to attack her, and That was foiled over the weekend, or it was actually a few weeks before that. Mohammed Bakr Assad Dawood al-Saadi is an Iraqi national who's linked with Iranian Hezbollah and has been trained by Iran's IRGC. Who's actually been linked up to 20 other terror attacks worldwide. He had obtained blueprints of Ivanka's Florida home and posted threats online, including, the area, showing a map of the area that she lives in, and saying things like, "Neither your palaces nor your Secret Service will protect you." Sounds like a nice chap. It's apparently in revenge for a 2020 drone strike on the Iranian Quds commander Qasem Soleimani, who was this guy's mentor. He was arrested in Turkey on May 15th and then handed over to US authorities last week, where he appeared at a Manhattan federal court. So, I don't think that's going to help in negotiations any. But hopefully, they've caught everybody involved, and ultimately that the negotiations will bring about some kind of actual lasting ceasefire. There were some linked reports with Taiwan, for example, where some weapon shipments were paused to Taiwan, and there's some speculation that that's linked to Iran. Detractors are saying it's because of supply issues, but there's actually just a greater chance that it's something that was negotiated with Trump when he was there in China. No doubt Trump would have asked Xi to stop supplying weapons to Iran, and the compensation for that, or the concession for that, would have been for the US not to supply Taiwan. There was other news over the weekend that there was a huge build-up or a huge surge of Chinese ships around Taiwan. But I did a little bit of grokking, and it shows that build-up has sort of been there since even before Trump arrived 3 weeks ago. China does frequently have drills around Taiwan, and including planes sort of crossing their boundaries. So it's not entirely unusual. I think when an actual strike happens or they make landfall, that's when we'll really know that it started. But we haven't heard anything about that so far. So it all seems pretty normal there at the moment. There was also a White House attack over the weekend. A gunman attacked the White House on Saturday. He approached a Secret Service checkpoint near the White House and started firing a revolver, and officers returned fire, killing him. Nazir Best was a 21-year-old man from Maryland. He was known to Secret Service as he'd sort of been hanging around the White House before, and in fact had a stay-away order against him, which obviously clearly violated. In 2025, he was arrested trying to enter White House grounds previously, and he was wanting to be arrested, he said, calling himself Jesus Christ. So he does have a documented history of mental health issues and was described as an emotionally disturbed person. So, it's fortunately nobody else was hurt, and he obviously he's not going to be doing that again. Some news outlets had captured their sound of the exchange, and it sounded like 20 or 30 shots had gone off, and revolvers tend to only have about 6 rounds in them. So, but most of those would probably return fire. There was another reporter from NBC Capitol Hill, a correspondent named Julie Tcherkin, who became a new meme sensation when she had no idea what the gunshots were and just stood around asking her colleagues what was going on. So it's probably good fortune for her that she didn't recognize what it was, and maybe she's not been exposed to it that much before. But it didn't stop the internet from going into full meme mode about it. And there's all sorts of things, all sorts of examples of her, not being sure what's behind her. Let's put it that way. Over on X, Owen Gregorian is reporting that the Columbia University School of Engineering and Applied Science, that scientists have found a new way to extract lithium. Summary is that a breakthrough lithium extraction method could help solve one of clean energy's dirtiest problems. Researchers at Columbia Engineering have developed a fast new technique that pulls lithium directly from salty underwater brines, or underground brines, using a temperature-sensitive solvent avoiding the giant evaporation ponds that can take years and drain precious water supplies. Even better is a method works on low-quality lithium sources that current technologies struggle to use. So it's described as a process that is called switchable solvent selective extraction, or S3E, and that's it's a method that uses a temperature-responsive solvent to pull lithium directly from salty underground brines, even when lithium concentrations are so low or mixed with other materials that it's difficult to separate. Unlike many current direct lithium extraction systems, S3E does not depend on specialized binding chemicals or large amounts of post-processing. Instead, it relies on a unique way that lithium ions interact with water molecules inside of the solvent that changes behavior depending on temperature. The system extracted lithium at rates of 10 to 12 times higher than current methods. It also removed the magnesium, which is one of the most common contaminants in lithium brines. And yeah, so this looks like potentially a new piece of brilliant new tech. Lithium is used in a lot of modern systems, especially like batteries and stuff. And it's one of the biggest things holding back the adoption of things like EVs, because current rates of extraction of lithium, it can take decades to even have enough lithium to fully convert even a whole small country to use EVs. We need to pull out a huge amount of lithium out of the ground to be able to satisfy demand like that. The fact that this can do it, cleaner and faster, is also very promising. Clean up that processing is usually one of the most dirty, parts of getting hold of minerals. That's right. Rare earths are not actually that rare. Processing them takes the most amount of time and energy. But yeah, like a lot of these new battery technologies, this one is still in the lab. There's no real indication of when it could scale or how it could scale. And there's probably going to be some more testing that needs to be done. So probably still a few years away from that one. And there's another one here from Owen, which is scientists turn corn into spider silk inspired sustainable plastic. Reports Krista McFadden of Interesting Engineering. Chinese and Dutch researchers created a silk-like biopolymer from corn that breaks down in soil within weeks. A joint Dutch and Chinese team has successfully converted corn into plastic using a method inspired by spider silk. The resulting corn protein-based biopolymer could offer a more sustainable alternative to fuel-derived plastics, or fossil fuel-derived plastics. The team behind it believes. This material is both biodegradable and renewable, but like other plant-derived plastics is weak, fragile, and not very useful industrially. So to overcome this, the team took inspiration again from nature by looking at how spiders make silk for their webs. Spiders process proteins in interesting ways when spinning silk, and the team set out to replicate that as closely as possible. When spiders produce the silk, the glands in their abdomen alter the water content, controls acidity, align the proteins, and effectively reorganize the molecular bonds. And that results in a very strong internal structure in the silk and making it pound for pound one of the highest tensile strength materials on Earth. Instead of simply melting or chemically processing the corn proteins like other plastics or like normal plastics, the team used the silk-inspired method to reorganize the protein molecules. And that causes zine proteins to line up and bond more effectively. It's that alignment that makes the new biopolymer so strong. And using this new polymer, the team produced fibers, thin sheets, and film to form something they called plantimer. It's a cool name. And yeah, so this is another story where humans have been, or human beings think we know so much, but nature shows us that she knows so much more. It's impressive that they've been able to achieve this, and the process may be invaluable to just material science in general. There are other plastic alternatives. They're available, but they tend to be very expensive and not very reliable. And this is still in the lab phase, like the previous story. But if it could be commercialized, it may become one of the cheapest plastic alternatives, possibly because of how large the corn industry is. There's a lot of byproduct that comes from it, so this could be very useful. And with that, I have reached the end of my notes, and all I will say then is that opportunities exist everywhere. We only have to look hard enough for them. So many people have made themselves useful just by solving even the tiniest problem for other people. Then, if you can find something to solve yourself, and you can turn that into something that is a product of some kind, or even just value or advice, then that can start paying itself off in ways that you could only dream of. And with that, I shall say stay well and see you later. Cheers.